All right, so today we're diving into some pretty out there stuff.
Hmm.
The idea of reptilian overlords secretly running the world.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a wild one. Our source material is this audio clip called How Are the Reptilians Controlling Us? And What to Do About It. So we'll be breaking down his main points and kind of see where it takes us.
Sounds fascinating. I'm really interested to see how these claims line up with other conspiracy theories, what they might say about how people think and what they're looking for in the world.
Yeah, definitely. And before we get too deep, just want to say we're coming at this with open minds. Our goal isn't to debunk this whole reptilian thing or say it's true, but just to try and understand it. Think of it as a thought experiment, a chance to explore a different way of seeing things.
Exactly like a lens to look at how belief systems work and how they influence people's perception of reality.
Okay, so the main claim of this audio clip is pretty wild.
Yeah.
It suggests that reptilians, these extraterrestrial beings, are manipulating us humans for their own purposes. They supposedly do this by messing with our emotions and energy, especially the negative stuff like fear and despair.
Interesting. The idea of these hidden forces controlling everything is like a common thread in a lot of conspiracy theories, right? It often reflects a distrust of authority and this need to find explanations for societal problems that go beyond what's considered normal.
Right. And this clip goes even deeper, claiming that these reptilians view humans as like lab rats for their experiments, and even get this, their entertainment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, wild, right? It even connects everyday problems like fatigue and anxiety to reptilian influence.
That's a really interesting point. Attributing these daily struggles to some external evil force is another recurring theme in conspiracy theories. It kind of gives people a sense of order and control in a world that can feel really chaotic, even if that control comes from a pretty unsettling source.
Totally. So let's break down some of the ways they supposedly control us. The audio clip mentions manipulation of the mainstream media to generate fear, and this concept of a time matrix designed to keep us enslaved.
That media manipulation thing ties into a very real concern about the power of media to shape public opinion and influence how people behave. It shows the skepticism towards the usual sources of information, which we see more and more these days.
Yeah, for sure. And that whole time matrix thing really got me thinking. It's like they're saying our perception of time is being messed with. But the source doesn't just paint this bleak picture. It also offers solutions for breaking free from this supposed reptilian control.
You see that in a lot of conspiracy theories, actually. Despite the often kind of dystopian outlook, they often present paths to empowerment and liberation. These solutions usually involve some kind of personal transformation, spiritual growth, or adopting certain beliefs or practices that supposedly counteract the influence of these controlling forces.
And in this case, the audio clip emphasizes positive emotions, acts of service to others, and achieving a higher vibrational state through practices like energy healing.
That vibrational frequency concept is pretty big in certain New Age and spiritual circles. It suggests that our thoughts and emotions give off energy that can attract or repel certain experiences or entities. And while there's no scientific evidence to back this up, it shows how powerful belief is in shaping how people see and act in the world.
Yeah, so even within this unconventional theory, there's a message of hope and personal empowerment. But before we get too caught up in this whole reptilian battle, let's step back and analyze what we've got so far.
What's fascinating to me is how this reptilian theory kind of mirrors the structure of so many other conspiracy theories. You see that same mix of distrust in authority, a search for hidden meanings, and a yearning for explanations that provide order and control in a world that can feel unpredictable and chaotic.
It's like they're trying to connect the dots, create a narrative that explains life's complexities, even if it involves extraterrestrial overlords and unseen forces manipulating reality.
Exactly. And even though we might not personally believe in reptilian control, it's important to try and understand the anxieties and desires that fuel these beliefs. These narratives often give people a sense of belonging, purpose, and even a feeling of superiority, like they know something others don't.
Right, like being part of some secret club with exclusive knowledge.
Oh.
But it's crucial to remember that this search for simple explanations can sometimes lead down a rabbit hole of misinformation and distrust.
Absolutely. It's so important to engage with these theories, critically examine the evidence, consider different viewpoints, and recognize the potential for bias and manipulation within these narratives.
Okay, so we've laid out the basics of this reptilian theory, but there's this one claim I found especially intriguing, the connection to the constellation Orion.
Ah, Orion.
Right.
It's a really prominent constellation visible in both the northern and southern hemispheres. It has a significant place in a lot of cultures, mythologies, and star lore. It's often linked with power mystery and the divine. It's interesting how they bring the celestial body into the reptilian story, giving it this whole cosmic dimension.
Yeah, isn't it? The source claims that reptilians are somehow using Orion to drain energy from humans, and even links it to specific health issues like eczema.
Hmm. That idea of energy siphoning pops up a lot in paranormal and conspiracy theories. It taps into this anxiety about unseen forces draining us and using us for their own game,
Mhm.
and then linking it to a specific constellation like Orion adds this layer of cosmic importance. It implies that these forces aren't just earthly, but operate on this grand celestial scale.
It's like with these unwitting batteries powering some interstellar reptilian agenda. And get this, the source of this audio clip, who by the way is an energy healer, claims to have a solution for this disconnecting clients from Orion through energy work.
Wow, that's fascinating. The fact that they bring energy healing in as a countermeasure to reptilian influence shows how these beliefs aren't just abstract concepts, but are often tied to people's lived experiences and practices that make them feel like they have some agency and control over these perceived threats.
Yeah, it's like they're pushing back against this cosmic energy drain with spiritual tools, almost like a sci-fi energy battle.
Definitely. The reptilian theory, like many conspiracy theories, often mixes elements of science fiction mythology and esoteric beliefs to create this compelling, albeit unconventional narrative.
And for some people, this narrative clearly resonates, offering a sense of explanation and empowerment in a world that can often feel chaotic and unpredictable.
Absolutely. These beliefs, no matter how strange they may seem, fulfill a very human need for meaning and control.
Right. But before we get too swept away by this cosmic energy battle, let's take a moment to ground ourselves.
Yeah.
Remember, we're approaching this as a thought experiment, a way to explore a different perspective.
Precisely. It's crucial to maintain a healthy level of skepticism and critical thinking when engaging with such theories.
Okay, so let's switch gears a bit and dive into one of the more thought-provoking parts of the reptilian theory, the time matrix. The audio clip claims that time, as we know it, is something imposed on us by reptilians to keep us enslaved.
Ah, the manipulation of time. It's a theme that pops up again and again in science fiction and fantasy, often symbolizing the struggle against fate and limitations. It's interesting to see how they use this concept in the reptilian theory, suggesting a desire to break free from societal constraints.
Right. It's like they're saying our entire perception of time is a tool of manipulation. But here's where it gets really interesting. The source argues that in moments of true love or pure joy, time seems to vanish. They even bring up Einstein's theory of relativity as proof that time is relative and can be perceived differently depending on our state of being.
Ah, yes, referencing Einstein's theory of relativity. That's a common tactic in conspiracy theories and unconventional belief systems. They try to legitimize their claims by bringing up established scientific concepts, even if those concepts are often taken out of context or misrepresented.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to bridge the gap between science and esoteric beliefs, creating a worldview that includes elements of both. But even if we don't believe in this whole reptilian-imposed time matrix thing, the underlying message about seeking moments of joy and transcendence where time seems to stand still is something pretty much everyone can relate to.
Absolutely. It speaks to our desire to escape the ordinary, the daily grind, and experience those fleeting moments of pure bliss and connection.
Exactly. But you know what's even more intriguing than escaping time? The source's proposed solution for breaking free from this supposed reptilian control. And you guessed it, it involves love.
Love, the ultimate weapon against reptilian tyranny.
I'm all ears.
They specifically highlight unconditional love and serving others as the keys to shattering this reptilian matrix. The idea is that by radiating love and compassion, we raise our vibrational frequency, making us immune to reptilian influence.
It's a fascinating paradox. This whole reptilian theory paints a pretty bleak picture of humanity under the control of this evil force, but then it offers a path to liberation through love and compassion, right? It's like a cosmic battle between good and evil with love as our secret weapon. And the source claims that this shift to a higher vibrational state is already happening as humanity collectively wakes up to its true potential.
This concept of a collective awakening or ascension is a big theme in New Age and spiritual movements. It represents a yearning for positive change and a belief in humanity's power to evolve beyond its current limits.
It's like we're all on this hero's journey, breaking free from the clutches of reptilian control and ascending to a higher plane of existence.
A very compelling narrative, for sure. It taps into our desire for meaning, purpose, and a sense of belonging to something bigger than ourselves.
Okay, before we wrap up this first part of our deep dive, I want to point out one last detail from the source that really got me thinking. They claim that reptilians aren't just some abstract concept, but are actually part of our existence here on Earth.
The idea of reptilians being woven into our reality is a fascinating one. It suggests this blurring of lines between the mundane and the fantastical, the tangible and the unseen.
Exactly. It's like they're saying we're constantly interacting with these beings whether we know it or not. And get this, they claim we actually attract reptilians into our lives through our thoughts and emotions.
Hmm.
Negative energy, they say, acts as a beacon, drawing these beings to us like moths to a flame.
This concept of attracting negative entities through our thoughts and emotions is something you see in many spiritual and esoteric traditions. It speaks to the idea that what's going on inside us can actually shape what happens to us in the outside world.
It's like we're responsible for creating our own reptilian encounters. But don't worry, our source, Ever the Optimist, offers a solution: energy healing. They claim to be able to remove reptilian attachments from their clients, freeing them from their influence.
That's really interesting. The role of energy healing in this context shows a belief in the ability to manipulate unseen energies to achieve tangible results, like removing these negative attachments or restoring balance to the body's energy field.
Yeah, it's like a spiritual detox, cleansing ourselves of reptilian toxins. But even if we're not totally buying into the whole reptilian theory, I think there's a valuable lesson here in this emphasis on the power of our thoughts and emotions.
Absolutely. The idea that our internal state can influence our external reality is a powerful one, whether we believe in reptilian entities or not.
Exactly. So while we might not need to worry about reptilian attachments, it's worth thinking about how our own negativity might be attracting unwanted experiences or influences into our lives.
For sure. It's a good reminder to pay attention to our thoughts and emotions and to try and cultivate a more positive and harmonious inner world.
Well said. And with that, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive into the reptilian theory. We've explored the claims, analyzed the structure, and even uncovered some potential psychological and spiritual insights.
It's been a really interesting exploration of a truly unique belief system.
But before we wrap up this part of our journey, I'd like to pose a question to you, our listener. What stood out to you the most in this deep dive? What resonated with you, challenged your beliefs, or sparked your curiosity? Take a moment to think about your own thoughts and feelings about this unusual theory.
And as you think about that, we'll be back in the next part of our deep dive to explore even more fascinating aspects of this reptilian theory and what it all might mean. So stay tuned.
Welcome back to our deep dive into reptilian overlords.
We've been unpacking some pretty wild claims about these shape-shifting extraterrestrials, pulling strings behind the scenes.
Yeah, and it's really fascinating how this theory, however out there it might seem, connects with some very human anxieties and desires.
It's like a cosmic thriller mixed with a self-help seminar. But before we get too lost in this reptilian maze, let's go back to the time matrix idea we touched on earlier.
Right, that idea that time is like a construct designed to keep us trapped, a tool used by those reptilian masterminds.
Yeah.
It's pretty mind-blowing stuff. But our source doesn't just stop at the theory. They actually give a specific example of how we can supposedly break free from this time trap.
Okay, I'm curious. How do we escape this reptilian-imposed time prison?
Well, you guessed it, by tapping into those higher vibrational energies we talked about, specifically through unconditional love and serving others. The source argues that these actions elevate our consciousness and allow us to kind of transcend linear time.
So it's not about literally escaping time, but evolving beyond it, reaching a state where time doesn't have power over us.
Exactly. It's like we're upgrading our operating system, going from a time-bound reality to a timeless existence. And get this source believes this shift is happening right now as humanity wakes up to its true potential.
This idea of a collective awakening or ascension is a recurring theme in spiritual and New Age movements, right? It reflects this longing for positive change and a belief in humanity's ability to overcome its current limitations.
It's like we're all on a hero's journey, breaking free from the shackles of time and matter, ascending to a higher plane of existence.
A pretty compelling story for sure. It offers hope, purpose, and a sense of belonging to something bigger than ourselves.
Absolutely. But let's bring this back down to earth for a sec. The source actually gives specific examples of how this alleged time manipulation plays out in our everyday lives.
Interesting. I'd like to see how this grand cosmic conspiracy supposedly shows up at a personal level.
They say that when we're stuck doing things we hate or feel forced into time, drags on forever. It's like being in a slow-motion nightmare, each tick of the clock, a painful reminder that we're trapped in this time matrix.
The classic Monday morning feeling the tyranny of the alarm clock. I think we've all felt time crawling by when we're dreading something.
Exactly. It's as if our resistance to the task creates friction that slows down time itself. But here's the interesting part. When we're doing things we love, time flies by. Hours melt away like minutes. We completely lose ourselves in the flow.
The time flies when you're having fun thing. A universal experience that goes beyond any culture.
Exactly. It's like our joy and passion act as a lubricant, allowing us to move smoothly through time. And the source says this isn't just coincidence. It's evidence that we're tapping into a higher vibrational frequency, one that goes beyond the limits of linear time.
So it's not just subjective experience, but about accessing a different way of being, one that operates outside of how we usually perceive time.
Exactly. It's like shifting gears, moving from this clunky, time-bound reality to a smooth, timeless one. And they believe the key is cultivating positive emotions, especially love and compassion.
Love as a tool to hack the time matrix. Now that's a fascinating concept.
Like a cosmic cheat code bending the rules of reality to our advantage. And to back up their claims, they even reference scientific concepts like Einstein's theory of relativity.
That appeal to authority, a common tactic in these belief systems, using established scientific concepts to give their claims more credibility.
Right. It's like they're saying, hey, even Einstein agreed that time is relative, so why not believe we can manipulate it with our thoughts and emotions?
A clever strategy using familiar scientific ideas to bridge the gap between mainstream thought and fringe beliefs.
Even if we're not fully on board with this whole time matrix theory, there's a valuable takeaway here. This idea that positive emotions can affect how we experience time actually aligns with some psychological principles.
You're right. Research has shown that our emotional state can really influence how we perceive time. Positive emotions like joy and excitement tend to make time feel faster, while negative emotions like fear and anxiety can make it drag on.
So while we might not be literally breaking free from some reptilian-imposed time matrix, cultivating a positive mindset can have a real impact on how we experience time.
It reminds us that we have more control over our perception of time than we often think. Our thoughts and emotions shape how we experience the world, including time itself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So even if we can't completely stop time, we can learn to savor those moments of joy and connection where it seems to disappear.
And maybe in those moments of timelessness, we catch a glimpse of something deeper, something that transcends the limitations of our everyday reality.
Beautifully put. But let's bring ourselves back to the reptilians and their world and explore another interesting part of this theory, their alleged methods of control.
Yes. How do these shape-shifting overlords supposedly keep their grip on humanity?
Well, our source claims reptilians are like masters of manipulation, using all sorts of sneaky tactics to keep us under their thumb.
Sounds like the classic conspiracy theory playbook.
Right. And one of their main tools, according to the source, is manipulating the mainstream media.
Ah, the media as a tool for propaganda and mind control. A classic theme in conspiracy theories reflecting this deep distrust in authority and established institutions.
Exactly. They say that reptilians use the media to bombard us with scary stories, keeping us in a constant state of anxiety and paranoia.
Creating fear is a classic way to control people. It makes them more susceptible to manipulation and less likely to question those in power.
Right. It's like they're trying to keep us always on edge, too afraid to think for ourselves or challenge the status quo.
And in a world where we're flooded with information, it can be hard to tell what's true and what's not, making us more vulnerable to this kind of manipulation.
It's like we're drowning in information but thirsty for the truth.
What a powerful metaphor. This reptilian theory plays on our anxieties about too much information, offering a simple explanation for why the world is so complex. Blame those shape-shifting overlords.
In a way, it's comforting. It takes away our responsibility, making those shape-shifting overlords the scapegoat.
But it also takes away our power, suggesting that we're just helpless victims of some grand scheme, unable to control our own lives.
It's a double-edged sword, right? The appeal of a simple explanation, but the potential to feel powerless.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to look at these theories with a critical eye, question the assumptions and biases behind them.
Always. But even if we don't believe the whole reptilian theory, there's something valuable we can learn from their supposed manipulation tactics.
Okay, I'm listening. What can we learn from these alleged reptilian mind control tricks?
The way they focus on media as a tool for fear-mongering highlights how important media literacy is. We need to be critical of the information we consume, question the narratives we're given, and seek out different perspectives.
Absolutely. In a time of echo chambers and filter bubbles, it's more important than ever to be discerning, to be aware of the biases and agendas that shape the information we take in.
Like, we need to develop our own internal BS detector, filter out the noise to find the truth.
Such a valuable skill, and one that can empower us to navigate the complexity of the information age, whether we believe in reptilian overlords or not.
Right. But the source's claims about reptilian control go beyond media manipulation. They argue that these shape-shifting beings have infiltrated all sorts of areas of our society, influencing everything from politics and religion to even our personal relationships.
That classic conspiracy theory idea of a hidden hand controlling every aspect of our lives. A narrative that tries to impose order and control on a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable.
Exactly. It's like they're saying, don't worry, there's a reason for all the craziness. It's all part of the reptilian master plan.
Might be comforting to some, but it can also be dangerous because it can lead to paranoia and distrust of others, even those closest to us.
It's like the reptilian theory casts this shadow over everything, making it hard to see the world clearly.
And that's why it's so important to stay skeptical, to remember that not everything is a conspiracy, and that there are often more nuanced and complex reasons for what happens in our world.
Well said. But even if we don't completely buy into the reptilian theory, there's a valuable lesson to be learned from their alleged infiltration tactics.
I'm all ears. What can we learn from these so-called reptilian schemes?
Their claims about reptilians taking over positions of power highlight how important it is to be aware of the potential for abuse and corruption in any system, whether it's controlled by shape-shifting aliens or not.
Very true. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts, absolutely. It's a timeless truth that applies to all human societies.
Right. So even though we might not need to worry about reptilian overlords pulling the strings, it's crucial to stay vigilant, hold those in power accountable, and speak up against injustice wherever we see it.
An important lesson for sure, and one that can empower us to create a more just and fair world, whether we believe in reptilian conspiracies or not.
You know what's even more interesting to me than the reptilian theory's claims about control and manipulation? Their proposed solutions for breaking free from this supposed tyranny.
The path to freedom from our reptilian overlords. I'm intrigued.
The source offers a whole range of solutions, all focused on raising our vibrational frequency, basically making ourselves immune to reptilian influence.
So not actually fighting these shape-shifting beings, but transcending them, evolving beyond their grasp.
Exactly. It's like leveling up in a video game, becoming too powerful for the reptilian bosses to control.
Great analogy.
Right.
What are some of these vibrational frequency boosting techniques?
They really emphasize positive emotions, especially love and compassion. The idea is that cultivating these qualities radiates a higher frequency that repels reptilian energies.
Love as a weapon against reptilian tyranny. That's a fascinating idea.
It's like turning the tables on our supposed overlords, using their own manipulative tactics against them.
But instead of using fear and division, we're fighting back with love and unity.
Exactly. It's like a cosmic battle of good versus evil with love as our secret weapon.
A compelling story for sure, and it actually aligns with certain spiritual and philosophical traditions that emphasize the transformative power of love.
You know, the reptilian theory, as unconventional as it is, taps into this universal human desire for freedom, for a world without fear and oppression.
And it presents a way to achieve that freedom, not through violence or revolution, but through personal transformation and developing a higher consciousness.
It's like a call to action disguised as a conspiracy theory. But even if we don't buy into the whole reptilian story, there's a valuable lesson we can take away from their proposed solutions.
I'm listening. What can we learn from these supposed reptilian liberation techniques?
The way they emphasize the power of positive emotions shows us how important it is to cultivate a positive mindset, whether we believe in reptilian overlords or not.
You know, there's research that shows positive emotions can have a huge impact on our mental and physical health.
So even if we're not literally repelling reptilian energies, cultivating love, compassion, and gratitude can really improve our lives.
It's a good reminder that our thoughts and emotions have a real impact on our reality. Choosing to focus on the positive can create a more harmonious and fulfilling experience for ourselves and those around us.
Well said. And their suggestions don't stop at just cultivating positive emotions. They also emphasize service to others, using our unique talents and abilities to make a difference in the world.
That classic idea of selfless service contributing to something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. And they say that by doing good deeds, we not only raise our own vibrational frequency, but we also help humanity as a whole awaken.
So it's not just about personal liberation, but about making a better world for everyone, free from the supposed tyranny of reptilian control.
Right. It's like we're all in this together, each of us playing a role in this grand cosmic drama of liberation.
A very inspiring message. And it resonates with that human desire for connection purpose and being part of something greater than ourselves.
But even if we're not fully embracing the whole reptilian narrative, I think there's something valuable to learn from their emphasis on service.
I'm intrigued. What can we take away from these supposed reptilian liberation tactics?
Their focus on helping others highlights how important it is to use our talents and skills to make a positive impact on the world, regardless of whether we believe in reptilian overlords or not.
Absolutely. Acts of kindness, compassion, and generosity can have a ripple effect, spreading positivity and creating a more harmonious and fulfilling world for everyone.
Right. So even if we're not literally fighting reptilian tyranny by doing good deeds, we're contributing to a world where beliefs like that hold less power, a world where love and compassion win.
That's a worthy goal for sure, and one that aligns with our deepest values as humans.
The source's proposed solutions go beyond just positive emotions and serving others. They also dive into spiritual practices, offering a bunch of techniques for raising our vibrational frequency and protecting ourselves from reptilian influence.
Ah, the mystical side of reptilian resistance. I'm curious what they suggest.
The source is a big believer in energy healing, claiming that it can clear blockages in our energy field and remove negative attachments, including those pesky reptilian entities.
The idea of using energy healing to fight negative influences is common in a lot of spiritual and New Age traditions.
It's like using spiritual tech to cleanse ourselves of reptilian toxins.
An interesting metaphor. So, what are some of these energy healing techniques?
The source mentions a variety of methods like chakra balancing, aura cleansing, and cord cutting. They also stress the importance of connecting with our higher selves and tapping into our natural healing abilities.
So, it's not just about external intervention, but about empowering ourselves to take control of our own energy and well being.
Exactly. It's like becoming our own spiritual warriors, using the power of energy to defend ourselves against those reptilian attacks.
A very empowering narrative,
Yeah.
and one that aligns with the human desire to have agency and control over our lives.
Even if we're not fully on board with the reptilian theory, there's a valuable lesson here in the emphasis on energy healing.
Okay, I'm listening. What can we glean from these so-called reptilian defense tactics?
The way they focus on energy healing underscores the importance of paying attention to our energetic well-being, whether or not we believe in reptilian beings.
Our energy is a precious resource, and we need to protect it from negative influences, whether they're from the outside world or from within ourselves.
So while we might not need to worry about reptilian attachments, it's worth thinking about how our lifestyle choices, thoughts, and emotions might be draining our energy or attracting negativity.
Absolutely. It's a reminder to be aware of our energetic boundaries and develop habits that nourish and protect our energy field.
Well said. But their spiritual arsenal doesn't stop at energy healing. They also recommend other practices like meditation, mindfulness, and connecting with nature.
The classic mind-body-spirit trio, practices that have been proven to benefit our mental, emotional, and physical well-being.
Right. And they argue that these practices not only help raise our vibrational frequency, but also connect us to a higher power, a source of love and wisdom that transcends the limitations of the reptilian-controlled matrix.
So it's not just about self-preservation, but about tapping into a deeper source of strength and guidance, one that can help us navigate life's challenges and fulfill our true potential.
Exactly. It's like finding a cheat code for the universe, unlocking hidden abilities, and tapping into a universal flow of abundance.
A very empowering story for sure, and one that resonates with that human desire for meaning, purpose, and connection to something greater than ourselves.
Even if we're not ready to embrace the whole reptilian theory, there's something to be learned from their emphasis on spiritual practices.
I'm intrigued. What can we learn from these supposed reptilian liberation techniques?
Their focus on spiritual practices shows how important it is to cultivate a connection to something bigger than ourselves, whether we call it God, the universe, or simply our higher selves.
For sure. Connecting to a source of meaning and purpose can give us a sense of grounding resilience and hope, especially when things are tough.
Right. So while we may not need to worry about reptilian overlords, having a spiritual practice can enrich our lives and help us navigate being human with more ease and grace.
Well said. And on that note, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this second part of our deep dive into the reptilian theory.
We've looked at their supposed methods of control, analyzed their suggested solutions, and even uncovered some valuable insights along the way.
It's been a fascinating journey exploring this truly unique belief system.
But before we wrap up this part of our exploration, I want to leave you, our listener, with a question to think about.
A question that will hopefully stick with you even after this episode is over.
Of all the claims and solutions presented in this reptilian theory, what resonated with you the most? What challenged your beliefs, made you curious, or made you question your own assumptions about the world?
Take some time to consider this question. Explore your own thoughts and feelings about this unusual theory.
And in the final part of our deep dive, we'll go even deeper into this reptilian labyrinth, exploring what this belief system means for our culture and our psychology, and how it might affect how we understand the world.
So stay tuned for the final chapter of our reptilian adventure.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We're in the final stretch of our exploration into this whole reptilian theory thing.
Yeah, we've come a long way, haven't we? We've looked at their supposed ways of controlling us and how we can supposedly break free.
We've dealt with that wild time matrix idea, explored energy healing, and even considered using love as a weapon against these reptilian overlords.
It's been quite a thought-provoking journey, to say the least.
Totally. And now in this final part, we're going to zoom out and look at the bigger picture,
Yeah, we'll explore what this reptilian theory means for our culture and psychology, and what it tells us about how humans try to make sense of the world.
All right, let's shift gears a bit and dive into the cultural landscape that gave birth to this fascinating, if a little unconventional, belief system.
You know, the reptilian theory didn't just pop out of nowhere. It's part of a bigger web of conspiracy theories and paranormal beliefs that have intrigued people for centuries.
It seems to tap into this deep fascination we have with the unknown, with the possibility that there are unseen forces shaping our reality.
And in a time when technology is changing so fast, there's a lot of social unrest, and people don't trust authority. It's not surprising that beliefs like this thrive.
Yeah, they offer a sense of order and control in a world that can feel pretty chaotic and unpredictable.
Exactly. The reptilian theory gives us a simple explanation for all the complexity of life. It's those shape-shifting overlords pulling the strings.
But while it's easy to just dismiss these beliefs as fantasy, I think there's a deeper psychological and sociological meaning at play.
I agree with you. These beliefs, however out there they may seem, can give us insights into the human mind, our fears, and what we long for.
Like, for instance, the reptilian theory's focus on secret knowledge and secret societies speaks to this very human need to belong, to be in the loop, to have access to information that most people don't.
It creates this feeling of exclusivity, like you're in a special club. It can be very appealing, especially in a world where we're bombarded with information all the time and often feel overwhelmed and powerless.
Like the reptilian theory gives you a sense of agency, a way to make sense of the chaos and feel in control again.
And the fact that these beliefs often center around a perceived threat, some evil force trying to control us, that's psychologically powerful too.
It's as if it triggers our survival instincts like fight or flight, making us feel a sense of urgency and purpose.
Right, it's like we're being called to rise up and defend ourselves against this threat, to become heroes in our own cosmic story.
And that narrative of resistance, of fighting back against oppression, can be really empowering, especially for people who feel marginalized or powerless in their daily lives.
It's as if the reptilian theory gives them a way to understand and respond to injustice, even if that injustice is coming from these imaginary, shape-shifting aliens.
While it's important to understand the psychological and sociological reasons why people believe these things, it's also important to talk about the potential dangers.
You're right. When conspiracy theories are taken too far, they can lead to paranoia, distrust of others, and even violence.
And the reptilian theory, with its focus on this hidden enemy that's trying to control us, can be especially vulnerable to those kinds of distortions.
It can create an atmosphere of suspicion and fear where anyone could be a reptilian in disguise.
Exactly. And that kind of thinking can really damage social trust, making it hard to build healthy relationships or have meaningful conversations.
So while it's interesting to explore the reptilian theory as a cultural phenomenon, it's important to do it with a critical mind. Be aware of the potential downsides and encourage a culture of empathy, critical thinking, and respect for evidence-based reasoning.
Well said. With that, I think we've come full circle in our exploration of the reptilian theory.
Yeah, we've examined the claims, analyzed the structure, and explored what it means for our culture and psychology.
We've had some labs, done some thinking, and hopefully gained some insights into how humans try to understand the world.
It's been a fascinating journey.
But before we say goodbye to our reptilian friends, I want to leave you with one final thought-provoking question.
Yeah, a question that'll hopefully stick with you even after this episode is over.
If we look at the reptilian theory, not as literal fact, but as a metaphor, what could it represent in our own lives? What are the hidden forces that try to control us? What are the power structures that limit our potential? And how can we resist, rebel, and take back our own power?
Those are questions worth thinking about, whether we believe in shape-shifting extraterrestrials or not.
Exactly. So as you go about your day, keep an open mind, stay curious, and never stop questioning the stories that shape your reality.
And remember the truth. Whatever it is out there waiting to be discovered.
Until next time, fellow deep divers.